The man at the center of the political storm in Iran, Mir Hossein Mousavi, hasn't been seen for days. The government has made veiled threats that Mousavi could be arrested if the protests don't end. And it's uncertain how he will respond. Here's David Wright.
For opposition leader Mir Hossein Mousavi, this is a moment of truth. Many say if he wants the protest to continue, he has to be there in the thick of it.
He has to show his mettle. People have been saying we are going to risk our lives and come into the streets. Now he has to show by being physically present.
The regime is clearly doing its best to intimidate Mousavi, arresting his top lieutenants and prominent supporters. Some government officials are even threatening to hold him criminally responsible for the protests. Mousavi is increasingly isolated. In some ways, he's an unlikely figure to lead this rebellion, a protege of the late Ayatollah Khomeini, a former prime minister during the 1980s. Mousavi was one of the architects of the Islamic regime.
Mousavi at the time was considered a radical Islamist, someone with left-wing economic views in particular, and fairly fierce views on foreign policy issues, not someone who was terribly pro-American.
Today, Mousavi's website refers to the paramilitary thugs who are beating up the protesters as brothers and protectors of our revolution and regime. It's impossible to know if Mousavi is being diplomatic or dialing it back. Impossible to tell if he's leading the rebellion or if the rebellion is leading him.
He has to prove himself. He has to prove himself.
At this point, the genie is out of the bottle, but it's not under Mousavi's control.
If Mr. Mousavi wants to remain popular and wants to have credibility, he has to go on with the movement. He's already a little bit behind, but he has to move forward with the movement.
What is clear is that his political future depends on all of them. David Wright, ABC News, Washington.